you very much, Dr. Weaver. A funny story about Dr. Weaver and myself. His first article that he wrote about the allocation policy featured a picture of a family of grizzly bears. And I looked at it and I thought, that's kind of playing into that whole grizzly bear thing and that concept that maybe we actually hunt bears with cubs, which we definitely don't do. And I thought, I wonder how the Green Party leader is going to react if I send him a message about that. So I did. And he said, it's the only one I got on file. I needed something with wildlife in it. So I took a picture of a mountain sheep and I sent it to him, and he's been using it ever since. So it's kind of a fun story. All right, our next special guest is Mr. Dan Brooks.
Yeah.
Hello folks, my name is Dan Brooks. I'm the leader of the BC Conservative Party, and I'm not just a hunter, I am a passionate hunter. This is a subject, allocation and resident hunting is a subject very dear to our hearts. I see people in this crowd all the way from Dawson Creek, Fort St. John, Kelowna, and Powell River, and North Island. I say to you, there's a reason we're here. It's because we're passionate about our rights as hunters to fill a tag every once in a while. Full disclosure here, folks, I am so passionate as a hunter and come from a hunting family for very many generations that my family actually purchased an outfitting territory here in British Columbia. And I myself have been an outfitter for 15 years. There, one clap, thank you. But let me tell you what, it means I know where the bodies are buried. And there's a few of them, and I want to talk to you about this so you can understand why you as resident hunters are paying the price for a broken outfitting model. You see, folks, the former model that was used to give outfitters their quota was by shifting and inflating allocations to outfitters. They shifted it within the outfitting industry themselves, within the regions and outfitters themselves. They would give to one and take from another, and this practice has been going on for decades now, for over 40 years, ever since my family got involved in outfitting. They'd take from one outfitter and give to another. They'd take from resident hunters and give it to outfitters, and they'd shift it around. They'd use all kinds of funny methods to come up with their numbers, success rates, and vacant area allocations. In the end, folks, it's unfair, it's unscientific, and it was unsustainable. The change every outfitter in this province knew that the change was inevitable and it was necessary. Starting in 2007, the government underwent a review of these policies that were causing so much problem. And they took away the inflation and shifting of allocations. And when they did that, the outfitters, of course, experienced an enormous fluctuation in their quotas. I saw one outfitter go from 20 moose tags down to 8, while his neighbor in the same region went from 8 to 20. What you saw there was a balancing of the equation amongst outfitters themselves. And when that balancing occurred, the outfitting industry, a portion of them suffered greatly. But what they're not telling you is that a portion of them also benefited greatly, because for the 30% that lost allocations, 70% gained it. And that meant an increase in the value of their hunting territories and an increase in their real estate value for never doing a single thing. I watched as resident allocation went from 85% to 80% to 75% in one area, while at the same time, outfitter allocations went from obviously 15 to 25%. And while that was happening, one outfitter would gain and another would lose, but the one who you hear the most of is the one who lost. The government did nothing to fix the broken outfitting model. Instead of fixing what's wrong with outfitting, They've turned to you as resident hunters and said, we're going to take your allocation and give it to outfitters to fix their problems. It's not fair.
No way!
In addition to this, the BC Liberals are creating loopholes to enable outfitters to take advantage of this, some things that are just ethically wrong, in my opinion. For example, did you know that two non-residents can both buy assistant guide licenses, go hunting together, and they call that guiding? They can both shoot a moose or a deer or an elk, and they call that guiding. That's a loophole. Did you know that outfitters, here's some of the bodies I'm going to give you. Did you know that outfitters can give their quota to their friends and family? They can circumvent the LEH system with their excess and extra quota, and it happens all the time. It's not right, and it's not fair to those of us who put in for 10 and 15 years for a tag. There are solutions to this allocation problem. First off, outfitters need to start learning the principle of social license. They need to start cooperating instead of confronting resident hunters. They need to start more conservation and spend their money on conservation and not on lobbying. Oh, yeah. We need to stop the foreign ownership of outfitting territories in British Columbia.
Yes!
I was an outfitter and my families were outfitters and we were British Columbians. And you know what? So long as it retains and belongs to British Columbians who are passionate about hunting and want to do it for a living, that's great. But as soon as it becomes foreign owned and it's no longer about British Columbians, it doesn't deserve to exist any longer. As with all real estate, when you bring in foreign money, it boosts the value. And what's happened with the real estate with outfitters is it's put it out of reach of the average resident British Columbian who wants to enjoy his passion and be an outfitter himself. We've got to stop foreign guides, we've got to stop foreign money, we've got to stop foreign ownership in BC outfitting territories. We've got to close some loopholes. No more loopholes, no more circumventing LEH. If you're a BC resident, you have to go through the LEH system. That's fair to everybody involved. I don't care if you own that territory or not. That's the way it should be. We've got to stop shifting and inflating allocations and taking from residents and giving to outfitters. And I suggest to you that the one most important thing that can happen in this legislature is that we legislate one split for all species, make it equal across the board. Let's get down to one number and make it fair to everybody involved. Now I read recently Minister Thompson wrote an editorial and he threw some numbers out there that really just appalled me at how the BC Liberals are spinning this. He said that only 8% of wildlife harvested is by non-residents. Let me fill you in on a little bit. In allocated species, only one species is less than 15%, antlerless elk up in Region 7B. The average allocation is actually almost 30% to outfitters. There is only one species less than 15% and more than 10 species allocated at 40%, folks. This isn't fair to resident hunters. This is not 8% being harvested by non-residents. This is in excess. You have 4% of your hunting population. Only 4% of hunters that come to and hunt in British Columbia are non-residents, and they're harvesting 8% of the wildlife. That means that for every animal you harvest, well, let me clarify that. That means that they are harvesting twice as many per capita than any resident hunter in this province. There are over 20 species with more than 30% allocation to outfitters. Minister Thompson, your numbers may be accurate, but they don't represent what's really happening to BC hunters. I know I've been putting in for moose and 7A for 10 years and I haven't got a draw yet myself. And my daughter, my 11-year-old daughter, drew a tag on her second year. How lucky is that? Yeah. And I knew, I told her, I said, I don't care if you're 11, you are going to kill yourself a moose. Because by golly, you may not get another chance for another 10 years, and I may not have the chance to share that with you again. So I took her out no matter what. I was going to make that sacrifice. And on the first day, my 11-year-old girl shot herself a little 4-point moose. As allocations change and shift from resident hunters to outfitters, that opportunity is taken from us. Allocation matters. It matters to our families. It matters to that moment that we spend with our son or daughter out in the woods. We are passionate about this because this is part of our values and heritage that we want to maintain for generations to come. I say to you, folks, this is our hill to die on. If we don't fix this problem now, it'll be another 40 years of a messed up allocation process. I say now is the time to change the way wildlife is allocated in British Columbia. Let's get one split, fair to all parties, and let's, for the future of hunting, make this change now. Thank you very much.